The 4,000 or 5,000 Mursi who live in the Omo Valley are semi-sedentary. They spend the rainy season in the savannah with their herds and only come back to these straw hut villages for the sorghum, millet, and tobacco harvests. Agriculture generated the social organization that may still be witnessed today. Whilst the man hunts and looks after the farm animals, the woman goes picking, grows crops, or takes care of the children. Agriculture produced sedentary communities that have made it possible to hoard grain, honey, and cured meat in lofts and calabashes. When he throws his wooden spear with its steel harpoon tip, the fisherman often misses his target owing to the muddy waters. But time is of no account, and sooner or later you can be sure he will catch a catfish. He also hunts crocodiles with poisoned lances. So many fishing techniques have been devised: nets, baits, or poisons. A gesture basic to the survival of mankind, the sharing of food within the group. The men and the women separate, no doubt. Here develops solidarity, the spirit of communion, and also language. Everything which since prehistoric times has led to the survival and development of mankind. Our journey, however, through time and space, is to be a long one. We are traveling towards Egypt and the sea, thousands of years, thousands of miles apart. Leaving the Bumé on one bank, the Bodi and the Mursi on the other, we learn something of our past that perhaps we had forgotten. The most recent paleontological discoveries have shown that man was born here in this region of Africa: the Omo, the Turkana, Hadar in Ethiopia, Kubifora in Kenya. From this area, perhaps as much as 2 million years ago, he went north, peopling Asia, Europe, and also the rest of Africa, the whole of the Old World. And why would he have not followed the Nile Valley? 10,000 years ago, the Omo and the Turkana flowed into the Blue Nile. It then took 2 million years for civilizations to get organized. Napata and Meroe in northern Sudan, the kingdom of Kush, referred to in the Bible. The Lake Turkana saga began here on these banks in 1967. This is the Kubifora dig, where sediments and fossils of animals and hominids were literally piled up 3,000 feet down. One of the most important paleontological sites discovered by an Anglo-Kenyan scientist, Richard Leakey. Uncovered by diggings or erosions, these vestiges lie thick upon the sediment. We are treading more than 2 million years of history. Here the mandible of a hominid or of an extinct mammal. There a flint chip, a rough tool, deliberately carved by the most archaic of our ancestors ever discovered, the Australopithecus, studied by specialists in Kubifora. Fossil evidence by the thousand like these skulls: crocodile, hippopotamus, hipparion, the ancestor of the horse, zebra, species both living and extinct. This femur belongs to an extinct race of gigantic elephants, 4 times the size of the present-day one. These remains discovered on the surface are 2 million years old.
We come to an upright man, Homo erectus.
A remarkable tool dating back to Paleolithic times. Early man fashioned himself very effective tools. First of all, the slightly adjusted rudimentary stone, then the chopper, where symmetry is already attained, the crusher, the axe, a tool and a weapon to be reckoned with. He used these tools for hundreds of thousands of years, whilst man, in just a few recent centuries, went from the steel hammer to the interplanetary spaceship.
Both habilis and erectors. Perfect midstone tool that can be used.
Australopithecus had a receding forehead. He can be recognized by the sagittal crest rising from the top of the skull. This species was not quite a man, but he did stand upright like the celebrated Lucy, discovered in Ethiopia, to have an age of 3.5 million years. Then came Homo habilis, 1,500,000 years ago. He was discovered in Kenya, the first genuine representative of the human species. Then Homo erectus, discovered in Africa, Europe, Asia, the first great nomad, dating back to between 300,000 and 1.5 million years, the direct ancestor of Homo sapiens, man as we know him today, with a highly developed brain, the species to which the Cro-Magnon man belonged, and the inventor of the Lascaux paintings in the south of France. East African cave art is doubtless more recent, but almost as surprising as the Lascaux paintings, naturalistic with its herds of antelopes, symbolic with its lanky figures. Dialogue with a crack in the rock, a pipe player, the reed stem, one of the oldest musical instruments in the world. A kidnapping scene. And here perhaps the Great Migration, figures walking, bent forward to depict movement, and a long way they went. Hunting elephants and rhinoceroses, early works of art or works of magic. Drawing an animal meant rendering it powerless. Triceratops, the dinosaur man never knew. It was a dinosaur just like Tyrannosaurus, the largest carnivorous animal ever nurtured by the earth. Diplodocus, vegetarian, 80 feet long, 30 tons, with a brain scarcely larger than that of a kitten. The dinosaurs died out, overwhelmed 65 million years ago. That's 650,000 centuries. As the era of the dinosaur dawned, Africa experienced an important cleavage. Torn apart by the continental drift, overheated by subterranean streams of unbelievably powerful hot liquids, the earth burst open, liquefied, bringing about the total collapse of the whole of the eastern continent. This is the Rift Valley, the great African fault, which widens a few millimeters every year. In a few dozen million years, East Africa will be an island. Active or dormant volcanoes spread out along its whole length, while jets of steam and the bubble of hot springs bear witness to underground activity. In Lake Bogoria in Kenya, where no other forms of animal life could exist, flamingos have found a unique ecological slot. In these alkaline waters, enormous concentrations of blue algae feed whole populations of small shellfish, thus causing the proliferation of 2 million flamingos of 2 different species. The bird's beak lets the food through and filters out the toxic water, an extraordinary feat of adaptation to a harsh environment. Animal species often adapt and specialize. They are therefore vulnerable, while man has settled on ice, in the forests, in the deserts, in the mountains. Animals forsake the weak, the wounded. The Great Rift Valley stretches over 6,000 miles from the Red Sea to Mozambique. An overheated land, but a land made fertile by a covering of volcanic ash sediment. A place of choice for African wildlife.